we'll continue to call out the colors of each of the different teams. I think Les Garants is going to be an orange this time. And don't murder me for the pronunciation. I'll do my very best, but Tiff's got us unlock on that.
I don't know about a lot. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've seen myself over in France. I'm not going to lie. A couple years.
This is Donardo on the other side, as you can see. Donardo, of course, with Overgear 2.0, looking to have a better performance in map 2. And these are the early engagements I was talking about. The spawns are close enough where you can either choose to spawn in and immediately run away or take this fight, and both of these teams are not going to get risk shot getting shot in the back.
Well, hear me out. Look, if I'm Overgear 2.0, and we were talking about Kofest coming in from just being a top fragger in the semifinals, you know he was picked off first in that initial game engagement on Brackish, right? He was the first one to fall. Yeah. Netted 0 kills, put up a goose egg. I'm not feeling too good if I was the one that was top fragging in semis. But you know what? To be fair, you regain, you go next, you get pro rock and try to find some information. Sure, they're just on the other side, but Toxic here, going to do their best to just keep playing off audio cues and information within the team.
And right now, they're just trying not to sell their positions. It looks like the only team that has done any sort of looting thus far is going to be the Les Garants team. That's in orange. If you're looking at the leaderboard on the right. And I'm looking for heads. Looking for headshots. Finding an angle, and whoa, yeah, that'll hurt. And probably take down the helmet of Kofest on the other side. Quick repairs, no problems here, Tiff.
You love to see that, checking in from Kofest side of things. I mean, hey, at least Luna didn't start investing some of the frags. The cooldown on that with Season 4 was decreased by 10 seconds, so you'll have a new one up every 45 seconds. Even the Volt Arrow, I've seen some really solid lineups for it, but we're still being cautious on that side of things.
Oh, I love it. Kofest trying to jump peak with the IB 700 as expected. We're seeing our first sniper, true sniper, into the mix here. And it looks like the Fallens are just waiting for Nardo Kofest to make a mistake.
Oh, come on. Shots coming on out. Imagine that lands. Doesn't, but all is well.
Look, I'm going to be honest. If we're hitting jump shots in operations, I mean, go ahead and just don't sign up. You know, this would be a crazy shot to land. Both teams just trying to find the right angle. Again, the classic fight here on the side of both these teams, the classic fight in operations is just looking for a knock. And it looks like it's coming from another angle off screen. Nonchalant is getting mixy, and all of a sudden the Fallens have been flanked far enough to lose a player. And Aluru comes in handy, deplete some resources, push the fight. You now have player advantage.
Oh. This is where things start to break down. This is what we were curious. It's going to be Obsessed that goes down first for Mojo Jojo. But look at a brilliant smoke and going ahead to hit that rescue. But it's Nonchalant that's going to have to dive on back and maybe put that pressure back onto Fallens before Folari is able to get the player back off the ground. Whereas Obsessed on Stinger starts to focus on healing back up.
Yeah, by the way, in just that moment of a blink, the third party here from Nonchalant & Co, I believe, has full wiped our Fallen squad out of nowhere. So as much as we were paying attention to what looked like a true 3v3, Mojo Jojo comes in and gets a bit of revenge. Take down Fallens. Fallens just full wiped with only 1 kill to their name. A complete role reversal from what we saw in map 1. Well executed, of course. Question is, can they keep up the momentum and get to these bodies?
You still do have a team nearby. As you can see, look at the map on the top left. Overgear 2.0. Still looking to get mixy and essentially sandwich the Fallens in on it. But Nonchalant inside the building. Patience. They're still leaving one member of Overgear 2.0 on the outskirts just to play and see what's happening.
Yeah, they want this loot though. I mean, so valuable. And as they loot up and get some extra, look at the differences when you just swap out armors and things that aren't yours, pushing up well into the millions immediately. But yeah, I love this look at the printing room and assembly room on the right-hand side. Kofest and Co. versus Mojo Jojo, trying to see if they can pick each other. They sandwiched Fallens. Fallens was out of here immediately. You can now see that Nerio and Zap and Co. are basically completely alone on the south side of this map and have a ton of loot they can pick up in a kind of non-combatant way, which is a little bit atypical for the competition we've seen. See that extraction point will open up here shortly, bottom right-hand corner. And then, of course, the two teams on the left-hand side eventually will interact, playing edge of map. But everybody going to slow it back down besides these two teams who are trying to find an angle, as all of a sudden Mojo Jojo reverses the curse, if you will, from map 1. And is now your top team in map 2.
They're gonna have to go big, right? Mind you, 200K was their score line after map 1. So already making substantial movements up. Now, at the top of the show, Goj and I were talking about it. It can just take one map to turn your game around if you have something that's relatively lackluster. So keep tabs on that. But these are the teams that we were talking about. Wrath Squad over there on your right in that light green. This is the team that was so patient on Brackish, taking those well-timed fights. But will they hit into an engagement here with Perry?
That's a great question. I mean, Perry's playing edge. They're basically playing the shoreline here, and nobody's going to willingly come over here. But what you might find is an angle for a pick from distance. M700, the sniper of choice for just about every single player, and I assume we see one per team is my guess, if not potentially more. It looks like Zap on our screen right now, still rocking the M14 and the SVD. Both great options, of course. Also, shout out to Zap on our screen, already rocking the Sea Gleam axe that came out with the new update. It looks dang cool.
Look cool, feel good, play good, hit your shots better. I swear there's something to be said about that.
That's exactly right. And you can see the just raw value you get. Look at that. They were able to loot all 3 bodies, fully looted up, fully ready to go for what fights could engage here shortly. But already, Mojo Jojo's at 7.5 mil. You said something so interesting about the last fight, right? You were talking about how Mojo Jojo only got 1 kill and then got fully eliminated, so they have 200K on the leaderboard. They've completely made Fallens feel the exact same way. I mean, Fallens has 200K on the leaderboard this map, and that's all they're getting. They got 1 kill. The question is,
that's tough.
Yeah, it's a repeat of history, just the opposite side. And I'll be really curious to see how this fight pays off for either team. I mean, you're really looking for the entry knock. I think you're going to get it from Kofest here at the M700 if you're going to get it from anybody. And obviously, you know that the team ahead of you has basically double the value of stuff, or close to it. Maybe we can say 1.5 as any other team. So they're going to fight this team at some point. It's really their only option to get valued loot, as they actually push up to 9.7, finishing up some looting on the other side. That's crazy.
So hear me out. This is so vital. I don't want to interrupt you or anything, but literally, this is the fight between Overgear 2.0, 400,000 in loot value after game number 1. And so knowing that Mojo Jojo only had 200,000. So if these two actually do engage, they're going to be the ones that shoot up the leaderboard, because Fallens, if they've only got the loot value from 1 kill, they're netting themselves 10 million after 2. Wrath Squad, just under 12. So this puts them right into the top 3, whoever wins this engagement.
Yeah, it's a really good shout based on game 1 leaderboard. We really got to pay attention to Wrath Squad. We got to see what happens with them this map. I mean, the two, like you said, the two teams at the bottom have an opportunity at the very least for a ton of loot value right now. And the team at the top is playing pretty slow and playing the outer edge of the map, and we'll probably walk away with some decent numbers. So if Wrath gets into an engagement, we want to pay attention to them, and it's looking like they might here shortly. Wrath Squad, of course, in the yellow, I believe. It's light green that you're watching right now. And they are looking at Perry, who's down, kind of pinned to the shoreline, which is where they wanted to be. I mean, there's some great cover down there, Tiff, but...
I mean, they're making a setup. which I love from Perry, right? You're kind of investing 2 of your players out towards the left, 1 for the Wrath on the right, but it's actually gonna be a member of Wrath Squad that does get picked up on the flank. You can see 1 member of Perry just kind of hidden out there down on the ground. So we're gonna see Starbaxer try to go over there and maybe hit the rescue, and Gurku watching the cross, trying to play off that timing, saying, hey, is there a specific moment where I can maybe push this and take this 2v2 before it turns into a 2v3?
Yeah, in terms of trade deals, Wrath Squad just got scammed. That is a terrible trade, unfortunately. I like the idea of bait out Beer Soldier on the right, and the rest of your team is able to take an angle to kill them. And unfortunately, it was just slightly mistimed, or they just didn't quite have the angle they expected. So the trade, unfortunately, is a bad one, because you've got Stickinson now back up, and it's now a 3v2, and the chances of you rezzing Beer is basically 0. You're gonna have to take this fight. You're gonna have to win it, and we engage, and we win it. Oh, nice swing from Girk. You were saying he's a top 3 in another tournament. I guess I know why. My goodness, swings around the corner, takes care of his opponent, and all of a sudden, this is gonna be the signal flare that, woo, Perry, you better lock in and get ready. Sure, you could go for the revive here. You could potentially rescue, but this is gonna, oh no! Off screen, Girk thinks that he's got an angle to potentially grab his teammate's box and get him up into cover and then get the full revive. And it looks like Perry knew exactly what he wanted to do, and they left 1 player to hold the cross and pick up the kills. A massive reversal on our leaderboard for thousands of reasons, but the main one is that our top team on the leaderboard after game 1 is out of here with, I don't think, anything.
Yo, these are the plays that I want to see ran back. And do you know why? Especially if it's Nox. You said, hey, they left 1 player out there to completely catch the Wrath Squad remaining players up off guard. Sure, send in Nox. That is why they are perfect for that. You pop the ulti, and next thing you know, you are so silent in that silent assault, right? Because it's going to be the only thing that can detect him are recon items, and that only gives the disruptor's starting location. So it is the perfect operator to make plays like that.
Wow. Yeah, that was a big deal. We now have the 2 teams that are at the top of the leaderboard, both out of this lobby, one with 200K, one with nothing. And talk about volatility on our leaderboard. This might feel like a slow-paced, very strategic game, and it is, but our leaderboard is extremely chaotic at this point, as we're going to see a massive reversal pending how these teams are able to get out of here.
Speaking of getting out of here, can we keep an eye on Les Gérants de la Test? They have been situated outside the horizontal test workshop. You can see where they've just positioned themselves. So they can keep eyes on 2 different exfils here. Not only are they looking at helipad the moment they want to camp that out, but they are denying access on over to the one where you have to drop your backpack on. So I love the positioning. They're just playing the long game.
I told you guys, Spider Tiff is an aficionado at Delta Force. This is high level commentary. I really love. I'm serious. I just
like watching. I love it. I get too stressed out dropping in.
The strategy of operations is very unique because it kind of depends. Obviously, if you're playing pubs or something like that, and you're rushing 0 dam and sprinting at admin, you know, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fast paced. It's gonna be whatever. But in customs like this, you have to think so strategically. And one of the ways you can think strategically is what you were talking about, which is holding crosses for players that are trying to get to extraction. You know that everybody has to do it at some point, and if you've already got loot value, you can afford to essentially camp an extraction if you want to, especially if you know a team basically has to go there. There's really no other option for them than play it, especially when you've already got the value. The risk, of course, is if you lose that fight, well, that is a lot of points going to your opponents.
That's also true. I mean, Perry, after game number 1, sitting at 400,000 in loot value. They've got 9.7 right now. That's a big change. Mojo Jojo, 10.5 million, had 200K after game 1.
Yep.
Huge.
And so technically the best position, I suppose, is our 3rd place team, which is Les Gérants that you were talking about. They don't have a ton of value, but they're also not in trouble. They're in a really good position in the middle of the map, kind of playing what I would call kind of hedging their bets on the fact that the middle of the map's going to be the best position for them to potentially pick up a 3rd party, potentially pick off a team that's unsuspecting of where they are, and potentially get to an extraction easiest. So they're playing a more kind of complacent and patient play style, not going high risk, and it's working so far. They're just going to be hanging out at Test Workshop where that is, like you were talking about. and they're just going to be patient here. So looking at the other teams, let's see where they're at right now. See Donardo and Co still up in the printing room. I think they might think that in Paris, which is going to be that Mojo Jojo squad, might still be close by, and so they don't want to risk getting picked. But Mojo Jojo's moved out. They're already at over 10 million. They're out of here, and it looks like Stick and Sin and Co are also already over 10 million, so they're also going to try to get out.
Okay. I think Mojo Jojo's kind of working through maybe some of the safes on the North and Central Command, looking for some loot at this point because they're feeling pretty confident that there's going to be no one nearby. Now, mind you, they had Overgeared 2.0 that was like over in the printing assembly like you were mentioning, but now that they've kind of moved away from that, it's time to make use of the 13 minutes left on the map before maybe some of the times that they need to exfil. So just hit the loot, find some crazy quality, and really just prove why you were that first place in the alpha group in terms of the semifinals.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think definitely something we'll keep an eye out for is what value can you pick up after you've wiped a full team. That's kind of like the base metric. If you want to get out with any sort of valuable loot, you got to wipe a team. But once you've done that, sure, you can go for more. But high risk, high reward. Certainly, one map could change it all, but it also could ruin your entire tournament. I mean, I'm looking at Perry right now with 11.1 mil. It's like, okay, do we even want to take a fight? Probably not. Like, let's cash this in. And if we know everybody else is not near us, let's loot around and see what we can find. Again, I want to remind everybody, maybe that's just tuning in. During the qualifiers, we had a team that found a Heart of Africa. I'm just saying it is possible to get crazy loot value just by looting the map. And this is the map probably to do it as well. Space City, traditionally known for some pretty high value loot across the board. And so if you can play around some of these higher value loot areas in Space City, it's worth your time to loot up.
I swear I just saw the space director being like escorted throughout. So maybe we're working on some of these different missions to go ahead and prep for endgame and getting out of here.
I'm not a fan of fighting this boss. I'm going to be honest. I feel like I'm pretty good at the game. But fighting that boss and its auto tank is just tough. And it's like, sure, you could do it if you're the last team alive. Well, I'll get back to that because all of a sudden, two teams that I think both want to get out of here are about to engage with each other. You can see Perry down below, Mojo Jojo above, and it looks like Obsess is going to tell us on broadcast, point out to his team, of course, but also literally point at the opponents. Heard some footsteps, maybe saw a peek. And I'm not sure Perry knows. I think they might know that somebody's nearby. I don't know that they know that there's a direct Overwatch position that they could get picked if they're not careful.
All right. I mean, look, situated at 11.1. We're almost to the point where we are the top valued team on the map. But this is where we were curious. Would they take this fight? I mean, Mojo Jojo here already trying to just be very cautious about how they approach this. Think back to how we saw them trying to leave the tower in Brackish, right? They are all about just situating themselves across the way, but look who wants nothing of it. They're just like, see ya, I'm gonna take this disengage real quick and just head on down towards the center of the map. But from the distance, can we pick up a knock? Star, be careful there.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I mean, this is what I talked about at the very beginning. It's like, do you take these fights or do you run away? And I think both of these teams, I mean, it looked like maybe Mojo Jojo was like, they'll take the fight. I'm not worried about it. Whereas Perry was like, we're in a terrible spot. We might take the fight, but we have to take it from another angle. The risk, of course, is getting shot in the back, but feeling pretty good. Able to zip back across the river and potentially try to get a pick from distance as they just get peppered from that triple blaster. That's brutal.
Love seeing the hyper aggro plays coming on through, and it's Obsessed looking for some angles. You mentioned it, already investing the triple blaster, 50 seconds left on cooldown, and Stickinson from across the way connects maybe with a couple into the shoulder.
Oof. Now, I'm not saying M700 there potentially gets a knock, but I don't know. The way this angle was, I wish you definitely wish you had a sniper, I think, for that one. But you can see Kofest right around the corner, Tiv, like you were saying, and there's a third party potentially waiting to happen if we're not careful. And I'm not sure Mojo Jojo knows about it yet. They knew somebody was in the area somewhat. I don't know that they know. I think Overgear is really not that far away.
You said M700 and they immediately said Kofest. And if there's one duo that I know, it's Kofest and an M700. So he's like, let me eat. Ooh. Let me see if I can find an angle.
And it does look like they know that they're up there now at the very least. Check the backside. You potentially heard them, I think, with some of the hearing enhancements that you could use. Potentially heard some footsteps. Or maybe had seen him on rotation to begin with. But this is an interesting place to be because it's now the exact opposite fight from the fight they were just in. It was Perry that was down below and Mojo Jojo up above, and now they've been third-partied, so they're having to do the exact same rotation if they want to take it. The problem is they're now sandwiched, theoretically, at least in their mind, between Perry and Overgear. So they don't want to actually zip across thinking that Perry might be on the other side of the zip. They're trying to take this slow.
Definitely putting space in between, as you see. Perry there down south, Mojo Jojo in the center, and Overgear 2.0 kind of working their way out, still leaving Kofest to kind of get that information thanks to the M700, where Toxic and Donardo rotate together.
Yeah, look at Lescarant's team though. They're finally on the move. They're like, okay, nobody's coming to test workshop. We hear the shots. All right, let's see if we can maybe pick up some teams that are in rotation. Nobody's rotated to them yet, but they might here shortly. So they're trying to hold a power position off screen as we watch these teams rotate to what will be right into Lescarants.
Yeah, you've got to keep your eyes on Perry, right? Mozcore, Baxter, Stickinson on the move. Now, the question is, are we going to make a play for that exfil at helipad?
Taking the bridge, taking the power position, trying to find the angle. They know they're on the run. See if we can get a pick in transition here. Doesn't look like it. We've got to pay attention to the clock right underneath the minimap. We're at 6 minutes, 40 seconds in counting. This Rocket's now an option. Something I saw in the semifinals a ton, Tiff, was frankly a lot of teams not making it out of this map. I'll be curious to see if it's going to repeat itself. One of the things we saw during that fight as well is some of our players like to drop their backpacks before the fight to make sure they don't give up a ton of loot. Your teammates could potentially go back for it if they do get traded out. So when we're in these fights, pay attention on the right-hand side as well, where the total loot value is located. You'll see that drop from, for instance, the team on your screen is only at 2.2 mil. But the team they were fighting was at 11 mil, and during the fight dropped down to 3 because they're dropping their backpacks, taking the fight, and then picking them back up for the transition.
All right, well, I mean, just keep an eye on. You've got essentially Mojo Jojo kind of lurking in the area where one of the levers is for that helipad. Lescarants have given up on their position to hold and have extended out initially towards that first lever, which has allowed Perry to rotate all the way around and to have a free walk up to the exfil where they just have to drop their backpack. Are you kidding me? Like you can't make for a better end game here in Space City.
It's crazy. I'm gonna be honest. It's hard when you sit in a position for 8 to 9 minutes, maybe even longer. Specifically talking about Lescarant's team, they had the perfect position. You expertly called it out. It was like, this is the right place to be. And then they got impatient and thought they could get into a power position in third party, which they still might be able to. But they have given up a free extraction for one of the top teams. And I think they might know it or just are thinking, maybe we missed something. Are going to back up and try to play this extraction. This is unreal to see Perry do a full rat out and get all the way out of here potentially here in a couple moments. But it looks like Kofest has picked up Nerio off into the distance as those two teams are at least interacting enough to find, well, I think an M700 from distance or potentially an M14. Couldn't quite tell.
Oh, okay. So 2 players, they're going to be Stickinson gone. Are we leaving one left to maybe see if they can catch any kills on the way out, or are we all out of here?
I think you just get out. I mean, I think all 3 did get out for Perry, so congratulations to them. And unfortunately, it's going to be a bad decision here from this Lescarants team to allow for Perry to get out with almost 10 million extracted plus 3 kills, another 600k. The problem is they're in a fight and they're trying to get the better of their opponents. And well, this is one way to do it. A ton of equipment, a ton of gadgets coming in. It's going to open up the opportunity. Nox swings in. Somebody said Nox is one of the best in the lobby. This is one way to prove it. A full team wipe for Lescarants. As much as we were frustrated with their positioning, their decision making. It turns out that it pays to play aggressive, and they pick up a full team wipe, but they are not even kind of out of the weeds yet, as Kofest and Co are right around the corner.
I mean, look, Mojo Jojo started out so solid here on Space City, but when you kind of all wrap and you have 4 teams falling across each other, Mojo Jojo down and out will not be taking that via extraction. So quite unfortunate for them, but all for the last 2 teams that are looking to kind of loot on up and get out of here.
Here's the thing. We are running out of daylight. 3 minutes on the clock, and these teams are right next to each other. This is going to come down to the final team, not only to get a triple kill and a team wipe, but also get out of this map. Can you do both?
Kofest says, I want to. Kofest says, I want to show you what I did in the semis, Goj. I want to do it again here, but not after what we just witnessed from the roster on your screen. Nox, Zapok, and Nerio. Les Gérants de la Tesse had such a powerful maneuver, now putting their loot value up to 10.4, but time is of the essence.
That 10.4 only matters if you get out of the map. And these 2 teams are both harrying each other to a point where getting out of the map is going to be very difficult and could cost you your life. Looks like Nerio was able to pick up Security Director. But that is not what matters right now, gentlemen. We've got to take this fight. And it does look like Donardo is going to be the sacrificial lamb here and potentially play GOAT while his team gets out of here, or at least is taking a flank. Playing up above, drawing footsteps as their third swings in to try to find an angle.
It is. They've got the extraction. They're still trying to get through it. Per that timer, Data Storm, Dragonfly going out.
Run out of time.
1 minute, 20 seconds. You better get to that extraction point. But look at the camping we've got going on. You are literally sandwiched into here. So Toxic gonna open some things up in a nice 1v3. Takes too much pressure, but here's the teammate for the assist. Zapok down. The trade's coming in, and it's just Donardo from the back left. Gets full wiped, and look at that. 1 player last standing. Nerio with the clutch here. Oh, Les Gérants, look at you. Now can we get out within the next 50 or so seconds?
Absolutely you can. You're right there. You're right next to the extraction. A perfect execution. I want to see that back on replay. It looked like, I think they were just spread too thin. They isolated their 1v1s because their opponents over here, I think they tried to just split up and take flanks, which was the right move, but it was like a second to a second and a half mistimed by that team to not all converge at the same time and then shoot them from the back, the front, the side, and everywhere in between. A frustrating fight for everybody except for the team remaining on screen. Unbelievable. They're not going to get all the loot they would have wanted. It doesn't matter, though. They're getting 6 kills. They get well over 10 million. They prevent another team from getting out of there. Look at that. 14.7 in total with 6 kills. That is a massive value for this squad and preventing some of these other teams from getting hardly any value when they were over 10 million potentially or close to it. What a reversal on this leaderboard. What a change. But a massive effort from the Frenchman. And look, I know chat was cheering them on. I'm sure they're going to be excited at the end of this one because that was a huge